Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. My name is Valerie Humans, and I'm the marketing coordinator over here at TurnTo. Today, our webinar is titled Clarins Enhances Online Shopping Experience with Social Q&A, and leading the webinar will be TurnTo's Director of Marketing, Kathy O'Callahan, and our guest speaker, Han Wen, the VP of Digital and E-commerce Americas for Clarins. Before getting started, I want to quickly go over the format for today's webinar. It should last about 30 minutes, and then we'll have time for some Q&A at the end. If you have questions during the webinar, please submit them using the GoToWebinar control panel. We'll try to get to all of your questions at the end of the presentation, but if we don't get to yours today, we'll follow up with you via email. I'd now like to hand it over to Kathy, who will get things started.
Thanks, Valerie.
No problem.
Hello, everyone. To echo Valerie's sentiments, thanks for joining us today. Before we jump in and get started, I'd like to share our agenda. First, we'll bring Han Wen to the stage to learn a bit about her and the Clarins business. Then we will spend a moment on what is social Q&A, and then hear from Han how TurnTo's social Q&A, checkout chatter, and moderation are working for Clarins. Then we'll wrap it up with some results, followed with some Q&A. Han, thank you for joining us. May I ask you to share a bit about yourself and the Clarins business with the audience?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Kathy. So my name is Han Wen. I'm the VP of Digital and E-commerce for Clarins, and I have been with this company for the past 4 years. And so my role in the organization is really to kind of take the Clarins, brand philosophy and DNA, and try to present it in the best possible way in the digital space. And of course, part of that is also to, make sure that we are speaking with our consumers and we're delivering on a service promise that we are making in our stores. So I'm happy to have this opportunity to speak, regarding the partnership with TurnTo, because I believe that this technology actually allows us to play out one of the key parts of our brand DNA, which is the our philosophy that as a brand we have to constantly listen to our consumers. And one of the ways that our founders did that from day one of the company was to insert a product questionnaire into every single product that we sold, and to actively solicit that feedback from the consumer. So granted, this was in the 1950s, so at that point it seemed to have been a very avant-garde CRM strategy. And so now in the modern age, we are constantly looking for ways to continue that dialogue in a way that really makes sense in the digital context, and that's where I believe TurnTo comes in. So that's kind of a brief background on me and on our initial thoughts on the partnership. But so I'll turn it over to you, Kathy.
Han, thanks. Great information, and just a fascinating background on the founding Clarins business there. So what is social Q&A? For those of you not familiar with TurnTo, our social Q&A platform enables shoppers to submit product questions on the product page and get answers fast from the store's past customers. These are customers who really bought the item. And it's our patent-pending active outreach email approach that enables the stores to collect lots of fresh user-generated content in a short period of time. Usually the first social answer comes in within an hour, less than an hour, and a store can see 4 to 5 answers per question in a 24-hour period. In addition to shoppers and past customers communicating, staff and brand experts can answer questions as well. In addition, it can serve as a great answer tool for the store's customer service staff. So let's talk about why social Q&A for Clarins. A couple of questions here specifically, and the first one I have for Han is, Han, why did Clarins choose to add Q&A? You touched a little bit about that on the DNA of the Clarins brand, but if you could elaborate, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. So again, to what I said earlier, we're constantly looking for new ways of reaching out to our consumers in a way that makes sense to them, that's convenient for them, and that also adds value to their shopping experience or their brand experience with Clarins. And so I think that when I first experienced the TurnTo service, what I realized was that this was really a great way to give our customers a fast, immediate connection to the community of Clarins loyal customers that are already using a product. So in this way that you're able to kind of replicate a store experience whereby somebody could walk into one of our retailer store locations, let's say it's Sephora, and they can ask the skincare specialist to say, I have this very, very specific question about my skin or about this product. Can you help me? And based on your experience and expertise with this brand, give me the best answer. So, I think that this is the reason why TurnTo has been such a great fit with this brand, is because not only is it allowing us to kind of hear the feedback from the brand perspective on what the customers have to say, but it allows the customers to kind of access or use each other as a resource to, understand what the brand is about, what the product is about, and whether a specific product is appropriate for them based on actual usage.
Okay. And so even though Clarins already had reviews, so you're already collecting feedback, if you will, good, bad, or indifferent from past customers. Did you feel that Q&A was adding another element, and why and what were you thinking with that addition?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Q&A is definitely, the reviews is definitely something that is necessary as part of, the product information that we're giving. So I think in this day and age, it's really a given. But for me, reviews is really kind of a snapshot in time of a consumer sentiment. And sometimes you don't really know, what exactly is the profile or background of this customer who's writing this review. And so what we typically find that reviews are very generic in their sentiment, and there's really not a lot of details that go into them, right? So a customer will say, this product feels great on my skin, or I love the smell of this product. But for somebody who's basically reading that sentiment, they don't really know if this person has the same skin type, or what exactly is that fragrance that they love so much, because a lot of this stuff is very, very personal. And so I think having the social Q&A as a layer on top of this information, it allows a potential customer to go one step further and ask that very, very specific question, saying something like, I'm in my 40s and I still have adult acne and I'm sensitive to fragrances. Is this the right product for me? And then it allows people who currently are using this product to say, well, I too actually share some of your concerns, and this has been my experience with the product. So it's a lot more nuanced, it's a lot more relevant, and I think that the answers that the end consumer ends up receiving is actually an answer to a question rather than just a general sentiment about the product.
Agreed. Good. I couldn't have said it better myself. Yes. So if you could walk us through the vendor selection process and why Clarins chose TurnTo for Q&A, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, definitely. So I think when I first came into contact with TurnTo, I believe that you guys are definitely the forerunners in this space in terms of social Q&A, and they're really, I think there really wasn't any other available options at that point. But of course, we are also partners with Bazaar Voice, and Bazaar Voice has, I don't want to say it's a similar function. I think they have a functionality where you're able to ask questions and receive answers. So in that sense, it's similar. But when I evaluated, the Bazaar Voice function, I think what came up as a result of that evaluation was that it's not as, I don't think it wasn't as appropriate for Clarins, because, first you're asking a question to basically people who are browsing the page rather than getting that proactive, soliciting that proactive feedback directly from the consumers via email. So what ends up happening as a result of that is that the answers, your question could be posted on the page and it could have an answer quickly, or it could have an answer within days or weeks. And so that sense of immediacy was not found in the Bazaar Voice solution. And this was actually a few months ago, so I'm not sure if that may have changed. But for us, in terms of the evaluation process, it was really between TurnTo and Bazaar Voice. And I think for me, hands down, TurnTo offered the better experience for the consumer, because number one, you have this immediate feedback because you ask a question, and this question is sent to a number of real live customers, and you receive that answer back very quickly within the first hour, as Kathy mentioned.
Good, thanks. So what I have up here, the screen here is an example of what the Q&A dialogue looks like on the Clarins site. And so, Han, if you could speak to what types of conversations you're seeing with the Q&A, and you've talked a little bit about how it's working for you and the shoppers, but are there the benefits specifically for the shoppers?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that as you can probably see on the screen right now, is that the questions are extremely specific, and this level of detail is not something that you find in reviews very often. In fact, we look at every single review that comes in, and very rarely have I ever seen something, someone say, hey, I'm 64 years old, and I have this and this condition, and I am looking to achieve this result from my my skincare routine. So I think that in terms of the types of conversations that are happening now, or using TurnTo, again, it's that very, very specific, almost diagnostic type of question that's being asked. I think also that knowing that as a consumer, if you know that your question is going to real life customers, you also feel, I think, more of a sense of comfort in terms of asking these questions, as opposed to knowing that your question is being answered by a brand. I think that now in this day and age, especially in the digital space, all of our consumers are extremely savvy. So, giving a raving review about a product from the brand is not going to carry the same weight as getting a rave review about a product coming from somebody who's telling you, I've been using this product for 20 years and I absolutely love it, and this is the reason why I love it.
Okay, no, good information. Thanks. So just a little bit about checkout chatter. And for those of you, some may be using checkout chatter, some may have seen checkout chatter and not known it was checkout chatter. But the checkout chatter enhancement leverages the TurnTo's social Q&A platform. And there are 4 components to this checkout chatter system. At a high level, here's how it works and the 4 components. So on the order confirmation page, the purchaser is asked, why did you choose this? So this is the store asking on the order confirmation, why did you choose this? It's that simple. And what our customers are seeing, typically 15–20% of all items purchased receive a checkout comment. So that percentage of people are answering, why did you choose this? And because of the timing, they've just purchased it, the sentiment is always going to be positive. That's been our experience. The second part of the second component is you can take all of these checkout comments and display them on your product page, and the majority of our customers display them in line with the shopper questions. As displayed here, the screenshot here shows Clarins, the store, asked, why did you choose this? With a running dialogue there from the various past customers. The third component is you can take all of these comments and display them in a scrolling widget on both or either the home or category pages of your store. And the fourth is this content can also be displayed as a full pinboard layout on your site, and then also installed as a tab on your Facebook page. On the Facebook page, if people were to click on an item, it would bring them back to your product page, or to the pinboard page, excuse me. So Han, if you could, we've talked a little bit about this on how we both think checkout chatter, these comments, is just such a great addition to the whole Q&A process. But can you elaborate as, how is Clarins using checkout chatter, specifically in your case, the checkout comment, and what kind of content are you seeing with this feature?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, Kathy, as you've mentioned, there's really a lot of benefits to using the checkout chatter. Obviously, it's generating for us a ton of great SEO content for each product page. So in terms of, our products are sold actually not just on Clarins.com, but also through all of our retailer.coms. And so it gives us this very unique form of content to compete against some of the retailers who may be, offering other value-added incentives for them to shop at Clarins at their site versus at ours. So I think that number one, it's great, content to help us, surface better or to rank better within natural search. But also, I think that the fact that we have this content also means that the consumer gets to have a lot more information about any given specific products than any of our authorized retail sites would. And so I think that, in addition to that, it also, from a marketing perspective, it also helps the brand to understand, what exactly is driving this purchase, or what is the intent behind this purchase. So when we ask, why did you choose this, we're able to see exactly where this customer is getting this recommendation from. So a lot of times we'll see, we got this recommendation through a friend, or we got this recommendation through a specific blogger, and that also helps us to understand when and where kind of our strategies of promoting certain products have worked. It's a great marketing tool in addition to helping us generate really great SEO. And as you mentioned before, everything that we're seeing kind of in this space right now is it's overwhelmingly positive, because you have somebody who literally just seconds before clicked confirm to buy. So they just bought this product, and they're not going to say negative things about a product that they just purchased 3 seconds ago. So and I think one last additional benefit is that it really helps us to get feedback from customers who might not necessarily take the time to write a review. We know that only a very small minority of customers who purchase a product actually go back and write a full-length review. And so this is something where I think, because it's so quick and easy for that consumer, it's literally something where they can type 5 or 6 words in, that we're getting more people to participate in this conversation than we would have normally if we just depended on ratings and reviews.
Okay. Very thorough. Okay. So moving on to the back end, Han has shared a lot of good information about the front end, how they're using the data, what it looks like, and then we've seen what it looks like on their product page. But to understand a little bit about the back end, our moderation system and the flow is, first of all, our developers have spent a ton of time perfecting the back end process so that our customers don't have to. For example, we have advanced filters in place, and of course our customers can add as many other words into those filters as they'd like, depending on their business. And for instance, if any of these filtered words appear in a question or an answer, that question or answer will not be let through automatically. It will require the store to review, then approve. So, the store, you control the content that is displayed on your site. So the net is, with our advanced auto moderation system, the platform can run with little to no manpower from your staff. So that's just understanding, TurnTo moderation flow at a high level. But to check in with Han, and how, Han, you are currently using TurnTo's moderation tool.
Right. Well, so right now we are not on auto moderation yet, and that has been a strategic decision from the brand. We know that the auto moderation tool is very robust. However, there's a couple of reasons why we haven't turned it on, and it's very specific to Clarins. And the major reason is because the Clarins USA website actually is available in 2 languages. So it's available in English and in Chinese, and this was done really to service a very large Asian following that we have in our consumer base. And so because we only have the TurnTo functionality on the English site, what we find very often is that a consumer will kind of flip back and forth between reading the product description in Chinese and then going to the English site and maybe reading some of the reviews and the TurnTo content in English. So, and as a result of that, we receive quite a number of questions from potential customers where where English is not their first language and it's not 100% grammatically correct. And sometimes we want to make sure that the question is formatted in a way that is actually understandable, so that when the end user receives the question, they know how to help the person who's asking the question. So we're doing moderation mostly for this reason, is because we have this kind of dual language a consumer base, and so we want to make sure that the whatever content is both going out and coming in is actually appropriate to go to our customers and then to be surfaced on the site. But I think that the eventual goal is for us to basically get to a point where we feel confident enough to turn on auto moderation, and we're constantly building kind of this white list of words where if these words appear, then we want to make sure these series of words appear, then we want to make sure we're catching that. But that's the ultimate goal. We haven't done so right now, basically because of the way that our customer base is currently, and the way that our website is set up right now.
How long are you? How long does it take Clarins to moderate?
So right now, what the team is doing is that this is part of the lives in the customer service center, and what the team is doing is that they're checking every 2 hours. I would like to have this go up to every hour by the time that we get into the Q4 peak period. And I would say in general that when you're checking that frequently, there's not a lot of work that needs to be done. So I would say that it takes one person about an hour a day to manage currently.
Okay, thanks. So Han, pardon me, Clarins has been up and running with TurnTo social Q&A for 4.5 months exactly. And so now what? Can you share with us today, the audience today, what's going on over at Clarins, what's new, what's next in the coming quarter? And I know as you and your, the fellow retailers and brands, ramp up for lockdown holiday, but talk to us about what the next 6 months look like for Clarins online.
Yeah, well, I think the big thing that's currently being worked on is live chat. So we're looking, we're actually in a soft launch right now, and we're looking to have that fully up and running basically by September. And so, for us, again, it's a no-brainer. It's another way for the consumer to interact with the brand and to get information, and also for the brand to receive the information and to be able to kind of filter that information back to the relevant people within the company. And that actually is also something that we're doing for all the Q&A content, which is that on a monthly basis we are compiling these consumer sentiment reports that's coming in from every consumer touch point, whether that be in-store or digital, or whether it's social. And the way that we're compiling this information is that we definitely are also adding all of the Q&A content to the report by product, and we're especially focusing on new products that we're launching, and that all of the sentiment that gets compiled here and the feedback actually gets sent back to our labs in Paris to inform them about the success of a formula, whether something is working or not, or if the formula is too greasy or if the formula is too fragrant. And actually, this is something where, as far as I've heard from labs, has been very helpful in getting kind of a very quick gauge of, okay, this is a new product and this is what people are saying about this product. So it's much more also reliable than, if we were to send somebody into store and doing product surveys. We don't actually know if this person's really purchased the product, or if they've used a sample, or exactly what is the context in which they've interacted with the product. So that has been definitely a very, very helpful reporting tool in terms of not just for the product marketing side, but also for our product development team. And then finally, a couple of things that we're looking at is that as we are also rolling out e-commerce sites for the rest of the region in Canada and then later on in South America, we're looking at incorporating TurnTo in all of our sites going forward. So Canada being the one that's coming the quickest on the horizon. And then for those sites where we will not be able to use TurnTo, we're looking at doing some kind of syndication where we can take this amazing content that's been generated and try to syndicate it on other English-speaking websites, such as our international site, or even in markets such as Australia and South Africa.
Okay, sounds like a pretty busy several months, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So, to touch on the results. So, as I mentioned a moment ago, Clarins has been up and running with TurnTo's Q&A for 4.5 months, and to a couple of bullets here. What we're seeing in the back end, based on the content, is shoppers who read the Q&A convert at a rate of 200% higher than those who don't read the Q&A, and which is interesting. And then we're also seeing that 6 pieces of user-generated content per 100 items purchased, which of course that content is indexable for the search engines. And then from an influence perspective is on average, Clarins is seeing about 4 social answers per question, and about 96% of those questions receive a social answer. So Han, we talked about these numbers yesterday, but can you share any anecdotal information with us today with the audience, maybe foreseeing anything in the future or what's happened thus far?
Yeah, I mean, I think one really great story just off the top of my mind is that we had a major product launch in February of this year called Double Serum, and during that week, we were basically all over the place in the press. We were in all of the beauty and fashion magazines. We were on several morning shows, and what was really interesting was that the product was featured on the Today Show. And so at one point, my CEO came to me and asked me, are you seeing any lift in your business on this product based off of all of this great PR activity that we're doing? And so the first thing I did was I pulled up basically the Q&A on this product, and right there it was amazing that I was seeing, under the question of why did you purchase this product, I had three people said I saw this on the Today Show, another person said I saw this in Allure magazine. So it was very easy for me to go back and quantify exactly, to say, listen, Today Show really works. Some of this other stuff I don't really see it because no one is mentioning it during, in their checkout chatter. Now, of course, this is very anecdotal, and it's not reliable in the sense that not everyone is forced to write an answer. But I think immediately I was able to, on the day of the show, to know, okay, this really, being on the Today Show really worked. Being on this blogger website really worked because everyone is mentioning Makeup Alley. And then, to give that immediate feedback to our PR department, our marketing department, it was really something that I think was, very, very useful for them in terms of planning on how they would further promote the product. So, and that's basically kind of in addition to all of the things that you've already said, Kathy, about the conversion lift and all these other things. But I think, I can't really forget about the fact that even as a marketer, the information that we're gathering here is very, very useful.
That's a great story. I love that one. I love that. Well, Han, thank you. Thank you for joining us. This was a lot of good, solid information for both us at TurnTo and for the audience. And what I'd like to do now is check in with Valerie to see if she has any questions from our attendees.
Sure. Thanks, Kathy and Han. We do have a few questions. The first one is for both of you. Han first, what platform is your site running on?
Yeah, sure. So the site is running on Demandware and has been for the last 2 years.
Great. Kathy, I don't know if you want to expand on that a little bit and just touch on the other platforms that TurnTo can integrate with?
Sure, yeah. Valerie, the TurnTo platform, social Q&A platform, is e-commerce platform agnostic. We have yet to meet a platform where TurnTo cannot be implemented. So
Great.
whether it's one of the big top 5, top 10, or a smaller cart, it works.
Okay. Another question I have for both of you is, what was the integration like?
Sure. So I can speak to that first. The integration, so the way that our team is structured at Clarins is that our development team is actually based out of Europe, and actually this development team has to manage all of the priorities for Clarins as a whole, the global needs. And so while the integration itself, in terms of just kind of adding the feature and designing the feature and adding it to our product description page, was very, very easy on our end, it ended up taking a little bit longer than what I initially had hoped, which was really, I was expecting a turnaround of like a couple of weeks, 2 weeks. But it ended up taking a little bit longer because it got kind of stuck in the development queue of the global, priorities. And so we ended up, so I think from basically day one of when we said go and we're going to launch this to when we actually launched the feature, it took probably about 3 months. But I would say that the majority of that time was really because we were just waiting for the team to focus on it and to actually implement it.
Okay, thanks, Han. That's all the questions that we have for today, and we are actually out of time. So I do want to give a big thanks to Han for joining us today, and thank you everyone else for joining us on this webinar as well. And I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.